look different.
This place is so strange.
These videos are not for children. If you're a children, then piss off.
Hey there, it's me, your least favorite YouTuber, the Infuso. And I'm not really gonna like this one, am I? Today I'm tasked with covering a crossover I'm only half familiar with. The brand new and bizarre Justice League x RWBY Superheroes and Huntsmen Part 1. An oversized, complicated title for an oversized, complicated set of movies. First and foremost, no hyperbole here. I don't know anything about RWBY. Like, legitimately, nothing. I mean, I know that it's a show created by a bunch of YouTubers, so I give props to them for that. Always looking to support my fellow content creators in all their endeavors. But that being said, I don't think it's something that I myself would ever watch. I'm not really much of an anime fan. Even when I do find one I sort of enjoy, I still find plenty of the tropes kind of odd or annoying. No disrespect to anybody who is a fan, it's just not for me. So before I start this video, I want to warn you, if you are a fan of RWBY, I am not. So keep that in mind because I will absolutely misunderstand and butcher your favorite continuity. You feel free to correct me in the comments. The story shows DC's greatest heroes awaken in a world both they and I are quite unfamiliar with. Not only is the world foreign to them, but they find themselves altered to this world's liking, being significantly aged down to properly interact with the RWBY cast. I like that in the world of RWBY, most of DC's greatest heroes look like Final Fantasy NPCs. That's not necessarily a complaint, mind you, I'm a Final Fantasy fan. I'm just saying you could throw them in the background of any game and I would not have noticed. If there's one positive I can grant this movie, it's that I do kinda like a lot of the Justice League's restylized RWBY gear. I mean, don't get me wrong, I would never want to see this replace their classic looks, but for an Elseworld wardrobe, I think it works well, even if some of them are considerable changes. Whereas characters like Wonder Woman, Vixen, and Green Lantern could honestly be passed off as legitimate canonical iterations of their characters, there are others like Batman, Superman, and Cyborg that have more considerable changes. Superman's design in particular reminds me of the Metropolis Kid, but like if the Metropolis Kid was somehow cosplaying as Seto Kaiba. And it also looks like they took some inspiration from Impulse when creating the Flash's RWBY look. Cyborg's redesign, though, is one of the best. It suits him, and quite frankly, I've always felt the original Cyborg design, for the most part, while fine, is mostly basic. This actually feels like a little bit of an upgrade, and I wouldn't mind seeing this Cyborg look adapted somewhere else. He deserves it. For the most part, a lot of these characters mostly look like they went from comic to manga. They're already made considerably different to accommodate the company that they're in, which is fair enough. I think that's probably for the best, because otherwise you get those weird crossovers where the animation just doesn't line up. Like every time Lilo and Stitch decided to cross over with another Disney show, it never looked right. You guys come from different worlds. It's like, what in the name of Kingdom Hearts is this? But the question I have is that if you have to alter your brand this much to better fit in with what you're collaborating with, you have to go out of your way to completely restylize and change your characters and age them down, then is the crossover even worth making? If a crossover between the two brands isn't a natural fit, unless the joke is how significantly different those two projects are and contrasting them with each other, then what's the point? What purpose does it serve? It just to me seems like so much had to be done to accommodate such an out there premise that it doesn't, to me at least, seem like it was really worth it. Were there really die-hard fans of both brands clamoring for this? Is it even worth doing? Does it even work? I mean, I'm used to seeing Catwoman, sure, but these are literal Catwomen. There are some other notable changes here as well, some more justified than others. Due to the different universe and different sun, Superman doesn't have all the abilities he has back on his own Earth, and he can only use the abilities he does have when the sun is shining down on him. Meaning shade has just become Superman's new kryptonite. Wonder Woman is shown to still have her strength, but then she later remarks that she needs her lasso and wristbands to channel it on this world. Another big difference, and probably the biggest difference on this universe, is that here, Batman isn't an ordinary human, as his body in this universe takes his namesake just a little bit too seriously. They made Batman a literal Batman. A young Batman. Not only does Bruce Wayne have a set of fly wings, but he's also now equipped with a bat-like sonar. And the ability to spit acid. Yeah, that's one of Batman's main powers in this. Disrespect. If you're wondering how Batman, the world's greatest detective, the Caped Crusader, the Dark Knight, would react to being gifted powers of his own, well then the answer is like a child. Although to be fair, he is also one. He's super jazzed up about having superpowers of his own. So excited that he allows his new ability to cloud his better judgment. I don't know, I always thought that Batman's superpower was that he didn't have superpowers. That's what made him special and unique. He wasn't a superhero, he was a hero who wasn't super. He was gifted in other ways. He had an expert level intellect and was able to succeed in places even his powered colleagues couldn't. I don't think Batman ever needed powers. Batman already had incredible abilities that even his super friends envied. This movie sort of plays it like Batman is less effective, or at the very least feels less effective, because he doesn't have powers of his own. But that's a really strange development, even if I'm taking into account that he's de-aged and made to have the mentality of a teenager. I still think a teenage Bruce Wayne would be a little bit beyond this. Or at the very least, he'd be smart enough to look at his legacy and realize he's made an incredible impact and done a lot right in his lifetime. Furthermore, he's constantly talking about feeling like he doesn't belong, and he's written to be aggressively indecisive. One moment he's saying,
I just want to go home.
and then the next minute he's angry at the mere mention of going back home.
But on Remnant, I can help. More than I could before.
And these two extreme emotions on opposite sides of the spectrum to the same subject matter, they take place within less than a minute of each other. I don't know if this teenage Batman really feels like Batman, but he definitely really does feel like a teenager. While the rest of the league still feel like themselves, much more immature versions of themselves, Batman is the only character of the bunch that really doesn't hit the mark. He doesn't act like a young Batman. When Batman was in his teens, he was already dedicated to this whole Batman gig, setting the groundwork for what would come in a few years. This is not that young man. This is just a kid with bat wings. Looking past that, you have Nat Wolff playing Batman? Are you kidding me? The kid from the Naked Brothers band is playing Bruce Wayne? Are you trying to hurt me, Warner Brothers? What did I ever do to you? This is all just because I said Christian Bale wasn't a good Batman, wasn't it? Oh, I'll take it all back. He's phenomenal if you just stop this from ever happening again. I mean, I know there's a part 2, but there doesn't have to be. There's a lot of references to the wider RWBY canon, but honestly, it's all lost on me. Like I said, I don't know the show. And the movie doesn't do a fantastic job in explaining it all. It's kind of like if instead of explaining the story to you, the movie just insists that you were there the whole time, so you should know by now. But unfortunately, I wasn't, and I don't. It's not the movie's fault for expecting me to be a fan before I consumed its product. I'm just saying that the struggle is real on this end of things. I am literally just as clueless as every other DC character in this movie.
I don't know what any of those words mean.
But what I've been able to gather from the movie is that these behemoth-looking things are grim, dust is tradable energy, and there are different types of dusts, superpowers are called semblances, and there's a bunch of half-animal people, and you just need to put up with that. The Justice League is scattered through this Elseworld, each managing to meet up with what I presume are the main characters of the RWBY series. Superman, who's more of a Superboy here, meets Ruby and Yang and helps them defeat a group of Grimm. Wonder Woman meets the Legion of Cat Ladies. Bruce Wayne tries to bond with the daughter of a socialite, Weiss. While Cyborg, Flash, Vixen, and Green Lantern find themselves in the role of students learning to hone their superpowers/semblances. It's strange to think that with everything going on and all these characters being misplaced in a completely different universe, somehow the most out of place one here is Vixen. I mean, Batman, Superman, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, The Flash, even Cyborg in recent years has moved up the ranks to being a top-tier leaguer. But Vixen? I mean, that's like extended roster. That's like Justice League Unlimited type extensive roster. Like, there's a spot for her, but that's because there's a spot for everybody. I I don't know, I just think that's one of the names that you keep on the bench and let sit out all season. Not that she's not an interesting character, just not a lot of interesting things are done with her character, and she's very rarely given the opportunity to prove otherwise. Given the opportunity here, they do almost nothing with her. It makes you really wonder what the point of it all was. The League have a strange shared amnesia around whatever brought them here, unable to clearly remember how they got into this strange world. But they're not the only ones. A lot of the characters from the world of RWBY also seem to have lapses in their memory, having only vague recollections of a seemingly important moment. It's unclear at first what exactly is causing their lapses in memory, but what is clear is how much danger they're all in. While this world may feel familiar to half the group, they learn that that familiarity may be false. All is not right for either set of superhero semblance havers. Their memories have become foggy, and their situation is obviously not what it seems. The Grimm have new abilities and aren't defeated by dust, but are instead feeding off it. The group also notice that their travel time has been drastically condensed. We're shown flashback events to the characters' lives prior to this, and I'm not really sure where or when they take place or even what they mean. With the DC characters, we're just seeing stills explaining how they ended up and where they ended up. But with the RWBY characters, it seems like there's a little bit more weight and severity put on what we're shown. So I'm assuming that these are important moments from the actual canon, which makes me wonder, to fans of the anime, is this actually, is this canonical in the series of RWBY? I think the most confusing elements of the movie is when they try to mix the two lores. When they're cross-contaminating the mythos is when it really starts to lose me. Because I already don't understand this one, but now this, which I don't understand, is trying to utilize this which I do in a manner which makes it seem like it does not.
Oh no, I've gone cross-eyed.
Like John stating that the Green Lantern's ring gets to the truth? No, it doesn't. It literally just creates green constructs. I really do like the music and the use of music in the movie. It makes the action feel all action-y. The way the fights are choreographed are highly impressive and just overall fun to watch. And I think they're without question the absolute highlights of the runtime. It almost feels like I'm watching a playthrough of a really good game that I will never get to play. It all looks so interactive, I really want it to be. The battles constantly provide compelling visuals and are the movie's highest source of entertainment. But at times, it does feel like they're all that's worth watching. So it's a real Anchorman 2 situation here. The movie does do a good job of splitting the two teams up into smaller teams and allowing dynamics to naturally form throughout the narrative. The movie may not do the greatest job of explaining its world in vivid detail, but it does give me as a viewer some type of understanding through every interaction between the inhabitants of these two fictional universes. I learn a little bit more about each character every time they get to interact with a character that I already know. Through Blake's jealousy of Yang crushing on Wonder Woman, I can tell that they have some sort of a thing. Through Ren's jealousy of Cyborg's friendliness toward Nora, I can tell that at least one of them wants to have some sort of a thing. And through John's patience with Green Lantern, I can tell that he once went through a similar struggle to what she's going through. And that's all without me ever looking anything up. While it doesn't do a good job of giving you the fine details, the movie does at least properly acquaint you with the basics of the lore. The characters that are chosen to interact complement each other really well, and it seems like the pairings of people were very deliberately decided. Ultimately, it's through their conversations that the characters of DC and RWBY come to the conclusion that they're living in an illusion, a virtual reality prison under the control of Kilgore. Kilgore, who has been hiding in plain sight this whole time as Barry. Why also trap the characters of RWBY? Well, Kilgore needed to use dust energy to power this fictional World Wide Web, so he worked alongside one of RWBY's enemies. And as a stipulation, he was also asked to trap them in there as well. Kilgore revels in his genius, completely neglecting his own stupidity, as while he did manage to trap the Justice League, he also trapped himself in his virtual reality with the Justice League. It's also revealed that Kilgore made the Justice League teenagers to make them more vulnerable. That's just bad. That's just not good. That's not a good excuse. I get that this is just a means to have the interactions between characters flow a little bit better, keeping them all in the same age group, and therefore on the same mental level, but this is a really terrible in-story reason to do so. It also makes you think that if Kilgore could just go and turn them into teenagers, why not just turn them into babies or toddlers? then you'd have zero chance of them taking revenge or figuring out your plan. I mean, you'd have a couple more diapers to change, should you keep them around, but, you know, you'd be more successful in your endeavors. Actually, come to think of it, how far could he go with this? Like, if he could just turn them into things, why don't he just turn them into houseplants? Boom, problem solved. Give them to Poison Ivy. Kilgore is eventually electrically exorcised from Flash's body, at which point Barry gives Vixen her necklace and Lantern her ring back. Those were being hidden from them. The team are able to put aside whatever petty differences and insecurities there were between them and work together to take down the big bad controlling the big bad. One more time. I have to say, while I'm not a fan of this product overall, seeing the two teams work together almost makes the cringe that led up to it worth it. It's a very cinematic feeling moment, and it makes for an incredible final fight. Once all said and done, Kilgore's defeated and has seemingly vanished, and the two sets of beloved characters return to their proper homes. Except when the characters of RWBY properly return home, a lot of them are looking significantly different than they just had a couple seconds ago. And then they comment on someone programming that as a training mission. So, I don't really know what any of that means. I don't know what any of this movie meant. Maybe part 2 will shed some light on this and I'll actually follow what's going on, but as of right now, I sure can't. So that was part 1 of this 2-part movie, and if you like this video and want to see a video on part 2 when it comes out, let me know in the comment section below by leaving a comment saying,
well, obviously, we're no longer a Justice League.
I was your least favorite YouTuber, Infuso, and I thank you for watching. Hope to see you in the next one.
I am vengeance. I am the night, and that was Infuso. Just remember, if you're not tuning in, then you're missing out.
So, if you like the words that came out of his mouth hole, and you too would like to become a V-generate, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, nerds!
And if you're not joining the fun, you're in for one bad day. And you know what they say about having one bad day?
Catch him next time. Same bat time. Same bat channel.